The emergency alarms echoed through the massive halls of the Galactic Council building. Admiral Zexkar's forearms moved quickly across his control panels as reports flooded in from every corner of human space. His purple skin had turned a darker shade, which meant he was deeply worried. "Another colony gone silent," reported his aide, Lieutenant Krall. "That makes 47 human settlements in the past 3 days." Zexkar studied the holographic display showing the galaxy. Red dots marked where human populations had simply vanished. Earth, humanity's homeworld, showed the most disturbing pattern. Major cities like New York, London, and Tokyo had emptied overnight. Not destroyed, not attacked a row, just empty. "What do you mean by empty?" Zexkar asked, though he had heard similar reports all morning. "Sir, our observers report that humans left their homes in perfect order. Food still fresh in refrigerators, beds made, personal items carefully arranged. Some left notes saying they heard the call but nothing else." The Admiral's main eye focused on the data while his smaller eyes watched the other displays. Humanity had been the Council's most reliable military force for 300 years. Human soldiers, engineers, and strategists had helped keep peace across thousands of worlds. They were not the type to abandon their duties without explanation. "Patch me through to Dr. Sarah Chen on Mars Research Station," Zexkar ordered. The communication screen flickered to life. Dr. Chen appeared, her human features showing stress and confusion. She was one of the few humans still at their posts working at the research facility orbiting Mars. "Dr. Chen, can you explain what is happening to your people?" Sarah shook her head slowly. "Admiral, I wish I could. My own research team started acting strange 2 days ago. They kept stopping their work to listen to something I couldn't hear. Yesterday morning I found notes from all of them saying they had to go home immediately. They took shuttles back to Earth, but when I tried to contact them, there was no response." "Did they seem afraid? Angry? Under some kind of mind control?" "No, sir. They seemed calm, almost peaceful, like they had received important news that made them happy. But when I asked what was wrong, they just said I wouldn't understand yet." Zexkar felt a chill run through his body. In all his years dealing with humans, he had never seen them act this way. Humans were emotional, loud, and direct. They argued about everything and rarely agreed on anything. This silent, organized departure was completely unlike them. "Doctor, are you experiencing any unusual sensations? Hearing voices or sounds that others cannot?" Sarah paused, thinking carefully. "There is something, Admiral. For the past week I've had a strange feeling, like when you know someone is watching you, but you can't see them. And sometimes, late at night, I think I hear something very faint, like a signal or transmission, but it's not coming through any of our equipment." The communication was interrupted by another aide rushing to Zexkar's side. "Sir, we just received word from the Kepler colony. The human population there has also vanished. But sir, they left something behind." "What kind of something?" "A message, sir, written in large letters across their main landing pad. It says, 'We go to prepare the way. Protect what we leave behind. The real war comes soon.'" Zexkar felt his blood run cold. Real war? Humanity had been fighting the Council's wars for centuries. What could be more real than that? "Dr. Chen, I need you to investigate any research your team was working on. Look for anything unusual in their data, their communications, anything that might explain this behavior." "I'll start immediately, Admiral. But sir, I have to ask Roro, what is the Council planning to do about this? Many species depend on human protection. The Outer Rim territories, the trade routes, the peacekeeping missions." Before Zexkar could answer, alarms began blaring throughout the Council chambers. His communication officer, a 6-legged Threx, clicked rapidly as he spoke. "Admiral, urgent reports coming in from the Krell border. 3 of our patrol fleets have been attacked. They're requesting immediate human military support." "Tell them human forces are unavailable," Zexkar said slowly. "Sir, they say they're being overrun. Without human tactical support, they won't last 6 hours." Zexkar closed his main eye and tried to think. The galaxy had become dependent on humanity for military protection, engineering solutions, and diplomatic mediation. Other species had grown comfortable, letting humans handle the dangerous work while they focused on trade, art, and politics. "Dr. Chen, I need you to do something else. Search through all human military communications from the past month. Look for any patterns, any clues about where they might have gone." "Admiral, with respect, maybe we're asking the wrong questions. Instead of where they went, maybe we should ask why they felt they had to leave." "My people aren't cowards. If they abandoned their posts, they must have had a very good reason. Another aide approached with a tablet. "Sir, Chancellor Vorth is calling an emergency session. All council members are to report immediately." Zexkar nodded grimly. "Dr. Chen, continue your research. Send me everything you find, no matter how small or strange it might seem." As the communication ended, Zexkar looked once more at the galaxy display. Red dots marked the empty human settlements like wounds across space. In his long military career, he had seen many strange things. Alien plagues, quantum storms, even attacks from unknown enemies. But he had never seen an entire species simply walk away from their lives. The most disturbing part was how organized it had been. Humans hadn't panicked or fought among themselves. They had made their decisions calmly and acted together. Every report described the same thing: humans putting their affairs in order, leaving detailed notes about their property and responsibilities, and then quietly departing. Some had left messages for alien friends and co-workers, apologizing for leaving without explanation, but promising they would understand someday. Others had secured their homes and businesses as if planning to return, but most had simply vanished, leaving behind only the mysterious phrase about hearing the call. As Zexkar made his way to the emergency council session, he couldn't shake the feeling that something much larger was happening. Humanity had always been different from other species in Mulbaru. More adaptable, more willing to take risks, more capable of seeing patterns that others missed. Their scientists often discovered things decades before other species. Their soldiers seemed to understand warfare on a level that others struggled to match. What if humans had detected something that the council couldn't see? What if their departure wasn't abandonment but preparation? The thought sent another chill through Zexkar's body as he entered the council chambers. Around the massive circular room, representatives from hundreds of species were taking their seats. The air hummed with worried conversations in dozens of languages. Chancellor Vorth, a tall, thin being with gray skin and large black eyes, called for order. "Fellow council members, we face an unprecedented crisis. Our primary military contractors have abandoned their duties without warning. We must decide how to respond." Zexkar took his seat, but his mind kept returning to Dr. Chen's words. Maybe they were asking the wrong questions. Maybe instead of being angry about humanity's departure, they should be worried about what had caused it. But as he looked around the council chambers at the frightened and angry faces of his fellow representatives, he realized that fear and pride would likely drive their decisions, not wisdom. The real war comes soon. The human message echoed in his thoughts as Chancellor Vorth began outlining the council's options for dealing with humanity's betrayal. Chancellor Vorth stood at the center of the great council chamber, his tall frame casting long shadows under the bright lights. His voice carried easily across the massive room as hundreds of alien representatives listened with growing concern. In 300 years of partnership, humanity has never broken a contract, Vorth declared. Yet in 3 days they have abandoned every military base, every peacekeeping mission, and every protection agreement across the galaxy. Angry murmurs rippled through the chamber. The Zalani representative, her blue scales shimmering with agitation, stood up. "Chancellor, my people's mining colonies are defenseless without human guards. The pirates in the outer rings will attack within days. The trade routes are already being hit," added the Morthak delegate, his rocky exterior changing color with stress. 3 cargo ships were destroyed yesterday. The crew sent distress calls asking for human rapid response teams, but no one came. Admiral Zexkar watched the panic spread through the chamber. He had hoped the emergency session would focus on finding out why humans had left, not punishing them for leaving, but he could see which way the discussion was heading. "Perhaps," Zexkar said, standing slowly, "we should consider that humanity had good reasons for their actions. They have never acted without purpose before." Chancellor Vorth's large black eyes fixed on the Admiral. "Are you suggesting we should simply accept their abandonment? That we should ignore 3 centuries of broken contracts and trust that they know what they're doing?" "I'm suggesting we investigate before we act," Zexkar replied carefully. "Dr. Sarah Chen on Mars Research Station is analyzing a conquer. One human who didn't even know what her own people were planning," interrupted Counselor Yax from the Hegemony Worlds. "How can she explain anything when she was obviously left behind?" Murmurs of agreement spread through the chamber. Zexkar felt the mood shifting toward anger and blame. He tried once more. The humans left messages. They spoke of preparing for something, of a real war coming. Maybe they detected a threat we haven't seen yet. Or maybe, Chancellor Vorth said coldly, they decided they no longer needed us. Maybe they found something more profitable elsewhere and abandoned their duties without warning. The Threx ambassador clicked his mandibles rapidly, which meant he was very upset. My people have 3 colonies under attack right now. Where are the human defenders who were paid to protect them? Where are the peacekeepers who swore oaths to maintain order? Chancellor Vorth nodded gravely. This is exactly the problem. We cannot run a galactic civilization on the whims of one species. Humanity has shown they cannot be trusted. Zexkar felt a growing sense of dread. Chancellor, surely we should attempt communication before— We have tried communication, Vorth snapped. Every human military base, every government office, every diplomatic station are silent. They left us notes like children leaving home for an adventure. This is not how responsible civilizations behave. The chamber erupted in angry voices. Species after species stood to share stories of abandoned human posts, silent communication channels, and empty military bases. The fear and frustration were realer. Many worlds had become completely dependent on human protection over the centuries. Order, Vorth called, his voice booming through amplifiers. We must face facts. Humanity has broken every treaty and abandoned every obligation. We cannot allow this to go unpunished, or other species will think they can do the same. Zexkar made one last attempt. Chancellor, what if this isn't abandonment? What if humans evacuated their families and civilians because they knew danger was coming? What if they're preparing to protect us in ways we don't understand? Then why didn't they tell us? Demanded the Zelani representative. Why the secrecy? Why the sudden departure without explanation? Because, said a new voice from the chamber's entrance, you wouldn't have believed them. All eyes turned to see Dr. Sarah Chen walking down the main aisle. She looked tired and worried, but determined. Zexkar felt relieved, maybe she had found answers. Dr. Chen, Chancellor Vorth said formally, you were not invited to this session. Admiral Zexkar asked me to research human communications and activities. I found something you need to see. Sarah activated a portable hologram projector. For the past 6 months, human scientists have been detecting quantum disturbances at the edge of the galaxy. Signals that don't match any known natural phenomena. The hologram showed wave patterns and energy readings. To most of the Council, it looked like meaningless data, but Zexkar noticed that the patterns were extremely regular and complex. These disturbances have been growing stronger, Sarah continued. Human deep space monitoring stations picked up something approaching from outside our galaxy. Something large. Why weren't we informed of these discoveries? Vorth asked suspiciously. Sarah's expression became sad. Because every time humans tried to share similar findings in the past, they were ignored or told they were being paranoid. Remember the void cult warnings 30 years ago? The Krell expansion predictions? The dark matter anomalies near the rim worlds? Humans reported all of these threats, and the Council dismissed them as human overreaction. Zexkar remembered those incidents. In each case, humans had detected threats early and warned the Council, only to be told they were seeing problems where none existed. Later, when the threats proved real, humans had simply handled them quietly without seeking credit or acknowledgement. This is different, Vorth said firmly. This affects the entire galaxy. If there truly is a threat, we should handle it together. With what? Sarah asked pointedly. Human technology makes up 70% of Council military capability. Human soldiers staff 80% of peacekeeping missions. Human engineers maintain most of the critical infrastructure. How exactly would we handle a galactic threat? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Several Council members shifted uncomfortably because they knew Sarah was right. Over 3 centuries, the galaxy had become dependent on human capabilities, while other species focused on more peaceful pursuits. Chancellor Vorth's expression hardened. That dependency ends now. Humanity has shown they cannot be relied upon. We will adapt and overcome without them. Chancellor, Zexkar said urgently, if Dr. Chen is right about an approaching threat, if there is a threat, we will face it without species that abandon their allies, Vorth interrupted. I call for a formal vote on Resolution 847. Humanity is hereby declared in breach of all treaties and contracts. Any human found in Council space will be detained as a deserter. All human technology and property is to be confiscated for the common defense. Zexkar stood quickly. This is a mistake. We should investigate first, communicate more, try to understand. The vote is called, Vorth announced. All in favor? Lights began appearing around the chamber as species voted. The Zilani voted yes here, they wanted someone to blame for their undefended colonies. The Morthak voted yes, a wow. They were angry about the lost trade ships. One by one, fear and pride drove the votes. Zexkar watched in horror as the count climbed. When species were afraid and desperate, they often made terrible decisions. He voted against the resolution, but he could see he would be in the minority. Sarah Chen stood quietly in the center of the chamber, watching her own species being condemned. When the final count was announced, were 342 in favor, 67 against Orr. She shook her head sadly. "You're making a terrible mistake," she said simply. "When the real threat arrives, you'll understand why my people had to prepare. I hope it won't be too late." As she turned to leave, Chancellor Vorth called after her. "Dr. Chen, as the last official human representative, you are also subject to detention under Resolution 847. Sarah stopped and looked back. "Chancellor, I'm not leaving because I choose to. I'm leaving because staying would be pointless. You've just declared war on the only species that was preparing to save you." Security forces moved to stop her, but Sarah activated a small device on her wrist. She shimmered and vanished, clearly beamed away by some kind of transporter technology. The chamber erupted in shocked voices. How had she escaped so easily? What other capabilities did humans have that the Council didn't know about? But Chancellor Vorth hammered for order. "This proves our point. Humans have been hiding their true capabilities from us. They have technology we didn't know about. Who knows what else they've been concealing?" As the session ended and representatives filed out to implement the new resolution, Admiral Zexakar remained in his seat. He stared at the empty space where Sarah Chen had stood and felt a deep sense of foreboding. The humans had vanished silently, and now the Council had issued what might be the worst order in galactic history. Zexkar feared they would all learn the consequences very soon. 6 months after the Council's declaration, Admiral Zexkar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching another star system die. The Krell Syndicate had just finished destroying the orbital stations around Velton Prime, and now their massive war fleets were moving toward the planet's surface. "Sir, the Velton Defense Force is requesting immediate assistance," reported his communications officer. "They say they can't hold out for more than 2 hours." Zexkar closed his main eye in frustration. "Tell them we'll send what support we can, but it won't be enough." It was the same message he had been sending for months. Without human military technology and tactics, the Council fleets were no match for serious enemies. Ships designed for ceremony and patrol work couldn't stand against vessels built for war. "Admiral," his aide Lieutenant Krall said quietly, "this makes 12 systems we've lost to the Krell in the past month. Our projections show we'll lose the entire outer rim within 6 weeks. Zexkar nodded grimly. The Krell had been testing Council defenses for years, but always backed down when human rapid response teams arrived. Now, with no humans to fear, they had launched a full invasion. Their strategy was simple and effective. Hit multiple targets at once, overwhelming the slower Council forces. "Sir, incoming priority message from Chancellor Vorth," the communications officer announced. The main screen flickered to life, showing the Chancellor's worried face. Behind him, Zexkar could see smoke and emergency lights in the Council chambers. "Admiral, what is the status of the Velton defense?" "We'll lose the system within hours," Zexkar reported honestly. "Our ships aren't designed for this kind of combat. We need human tactical support, human weapons technology, and human military leadership." Vorth's expression darkened. "Humanity abandoned us, Admiral. We must adapt and overcome. Other species managed galactic defense before humans arrived." "Other species never faced threats like this," Zexkar replied. "The galaxy was more peaceful 300 years ago. The Krell weren't organized. The Void Cult didn't exist. Pirates operated in small groups, not massive fleets." Before Vorth could respond, alarms began sounding on Zexakar's bridge. "Sir, emergency transmission from the Hegemony Core worlds. They're reporting. This can't be right." "What is it?" "They say entire star systems are going dark. Not destroyed, sir. Dark. The stars themselves are being extinguished." Zexkar felt his blood turn cold. "Patch me through to the Hegemony fleet." The screen split, showing Admiral Thiss of the Hegemony Navy. Her usually calm demeanor was completely shattered. Zexkar, thank the void, you responded. We've lost contact with 17 systems in the past week. Long-range sensors show nothing where those stars used to be. Just empty space. What do you mean, empty space? I mean the stars are gone. The planets are gone. Everything is gone. We sent a scout ship to investigate the Mithro system. It found nothing but a sphere of absolute darkness where an entire solar system used to exist. Chancellor Vorth's image flickered as he tried to process this information. That's impossible. Stars don't just disappear. The scout ship tried to enter the dark zone. Admiral Theiss continued, her voice shaking. We lost contact immediately. No distress signal, no explosion, nothing. The ship just stopped existing. Zexkar's mind raced. This was far beyond anything the Krell or other known enemies could do. Admiral, have you detected any ships or structures near these dark zones? That's the strange part. Our deep space sensors pick up movement around the edges of the darkness. Large objects, but they don't match any known ship designs. And Zexkar, they're heading toward the galactic core. The bridge fell silent except for the hum of machinery. Zexkar looked at the star charts displayed around his command chair. If someone or something was consuming entire star systems and moving inward, every inhabited world was in danger. How fast are they moving? Chancellor Vorth asked. At current speed, they'll reach the major trade routes in 3 months, Theiss replied. The core worlds in 8 months. Zexkar made a decision that went against all protocol. Chancellor, we need to contact humanity immediately. If they detected this threat 6 months ago. Absolutely not, Vorth snapped. Humanity abandoned us in our hour of need. We will not go begging to criminals and deserters. Sir, this isn't about pride anymore, this is about survival. Admiral Zexkar, you are relieved of command. Admiral Theiss, you will coordinate our defense against these. Whatever they are. Theiss looked confused. Chancellor, I'm honored, but Admiral Zexkar has more experience with unknown threats. And frankly, we need every experienced officer we have. Experience with human tactics, Vorth said dismissively. We need to develop our own strategies. As the communication ended, Zexkar felt a mixture of anger and despair. He gathered his personal belongings and prepared to transfer command to his second-in-command. But as he walked toward the transport bay, Lieutenant Krall caught up with him. Sir, there's something you need to see. We've been monitoring communications from the Rim worlds and I'm no longer in command, Lieutenant. Give the information to Admiral Krex. Sir, this is about Dr. Sarah Chen. She's been sending messages. Zexkar stopped. What kind of messages? Technical data about the dark zones. And sir, she's not sending them from Mars Research Station. The signal is coming from outside the galaxy. They moved to a private communication booth. Krall activated a secure channel, and Dr. Chen's image appeared. She looked tired but determined, and behind her was technology that Zexkar didn't recognize. Admiral, I'm glad you received this. I know the Council has declared me a criminal, but I have information you need. Dr. Chen, where are you? How are you transmitting from outside the galaxy? That's not important right now. What matters is that the entities consuming your star systems are called the Devourers. They're scouts for something much larger. My people have been tracking them for decades. Your people knew about this threat? We've been fighting it, Admiral. Not the scouts. They're too powerful for direct confrontation. We've been preparing defenses, evacuating vulnerable populations, and building weapons that might work against the main force. Zexkar felt pieces of a puzzle clicking into place. The humans who disappeared, they weren't abandoning their duties. They were preparing for war. Exactly. We tried to warn the Council indirectly, but every time we raised concerns about unusual readings or potential threats, we were told we were being paranoid. So we developed our own response plan. Dr. Chen, the Council is losing the war against the Krell. We're losing entire fleets. The Rim worlds are falling one by one. Sarah's expression became sad. We know. We've been watching. Some of my people wanted to intervene, but after Resolution 847, helping you would make us criminals in Council space. Resolution 847 was a mistake, Zexkar said urgently. Chancellor Vorth is too proud to admit it, but we need human help desperately. Admiral, I need you to understand something. The Krell, attacks, the Void cult activities, even the Pirates' Aurora, they're all connected to the Devourer Scouts. These entities corrupt local species, turning them into agents. The galaxy isn't facing multiple separate threats. It's facing one threat that uses local forces as tools. The implication hit Zexkar like a physical blow. You're saying the Krell invasion is being directed by these Devourers? Partially. The Devourers study their targets before consuming them. They want to understand galactic civilization, military capabilities, and resource distribution. The Krell don't even realize they're being influenced. Then how do we fight something like that? Sarah was quiet for a moment. Admiral, humanity has been preparing for this war for over a century. We've built weapons, ships, and strategies specifically designed to fight the Devourers. But we can't protect a galaxy that has declared us criminals. What do you need? We need the Council to rescind Resolution 847. We need access to our old bases and technology caches. And we need other species to trust us enough to follow human battle plans without questioning every decision. Zexkar knew that would be impossible with Vorth in charge. Dr. Chen, is there any way to prove to the Council that you're trying to help? Admiral, in 2 weeks the Devourer Scouts will reach the Centauri Trade Hub. It's one of the most important commercial centers in Council space. If we save it, will that be proof enough? You can stop them? We can try. But Admiral, if we succeed, you need to be ready to convince the Council that humanity is not the enemy. The real war Amwaro, the one against the main Devourer force Amwaro, hasn't even started yet. The transmission ended, leaving Zexkar staring at the empty screen. Around him, he could hear reports of more systems falling to the Krell, more ships lost to unknown attackers, more worlds going dark. The galaxy was burning, and its leaders were too proud to accept help from the one species that had been preparing to save it. Zexkar made a decision that would make him a criminal in the eyes of the Council. He had to find a way to help humanity, prepare their proof, even if it meant betraying everything he had sworn to uphold. Admiral Zexkar had been hiding in the Outer Rim for 3 weeks, using an old mining station as his base of operations. His small team of loyal officers worked quietly, monitoring communications and gathering intelligence that the Council refused to see. Sir, the Centauri Trade Hub is still standing, reported Lieutenant Krall, studying the latest sensor data. Whatever Dr. Chen's people did, it worked. Zexkar looked at the holographic display showing the Centauri system. 2 weeks ago, the Devourer Scouts had approached the vital trade station that supplied dozens of worlds. Long-range sensors had detected the familiar darkness beginning to spread around the system's edge. Then something unprecedented had happened. The darkness had simply stopped. Not destroyed or driven away it had stopped expanding and then slowly retreated. The trade hub and its 3 million inhabitants had been saved. Any word from the Council about the Centauri incident? Zexkar asked. Chancellor Vorth is claiming it was a natural phenomenon, Krall replied with obvious disgust. He says solar radiation disrupted whatever was causing the darkness. Of course he did. Zexkar had expected this response. Admitting that humans had saved Centauri would mean admitting that Resolution 847 had been wrong. A soft chime indicated an incoming transmission on their secret communication channel. Dr. Sarah, Chen's image appeared, but she looked different, more confident, almost relieved. Admiral, thank you for maintaining communication. I have news that changes everything. Dr. Chen, the Council is refusing to acknowledge what happened at Centauri. Chancellor Vorth, Admiral, Sarah interrupted gently. Chancellor Vorth's opinions are about to become irrelevant. We've made contact with the main Devourer force. Zexkar felt his blood chill. Made contact? You mean they're here? Not exactly. We found their scouts and managed to capture one. When we questioned it, we learned something that changes our entire understanding of this threat. The image shifted to show a massive chamber filled with technology that looked both human and completely alien. In the center, contained within some kind of energy field, was something that hurt to look at directly. It seemed to shift between different shapes, never quite settling on one form. The Devourers aren't invaders from outside our galaxy, Sarah explained. They're from our galaxy's future. They're what remains of civilizations that failed to unite against a threat that hasn't arrived yet. I don't understand. Admiral, time isn't as fixed as most species believe. The Devourers are fighting a war across multiple timelines. They consume civilizations in the past to gather strength for a battle in the future. But they can only succeed if galactic civilization remains divided. Zexkar struggled to process this information. You're saying they're trying to prevent us from uniting? Exactly. Every conflict they've encouraged, the Krell invasion, the Void Cult attacks, the pirate raids, are all designed to keep species fighting each other instead of working together. They needed the galaxy weak and divided for their real plan, which is, Sarah's expression became grave. In 6 months, something will arrive from outside our galaxy, something so dangerous that even the Devourers fear it. They've been consuming civilizations to build an army strong enough to fight this entity, but their method ensures that whatever wins will be corrupted beyond recognition. And humanity's plan? Unite the galaxy through cooperation instead of conquest. Build defenses through shared technology instead of absorbed civilizations. Face the real threat as allies instead of as absorbed victims. A new voice joined the conversation. Admiral Zexkar, I presume. The image expanded to show a human woman in military uniform. Her bearing was unmistakably that of a senior commander, and her eyes held the weight of long experience. Admiral Sarah Chen, she introduced herself. Dr. Chen's sister and commander of humanity's deep space fleet. I wanted to speak with you directly about what comes next. Admiral Chen, I must ask Aru, how large is humanity's military force? The Council estimated perhaps 2,000 ships at most. Sarah Chen smiled grimly. The Council saw what we wanted them to see. Admiral, humanity has been building ships in secret for over a century. We have more than 200,000 vessels, plus support fleets and manufacturing facilities. The number stunned Zexkar. 200,000? How is that possible? While other species focused on trade, art, and politics, humans focused on survival. We learned early that the galaxy held threats that most civilizations couldn't even perceive, so we prepared. Dr. Chen added, Admiral, remember all those human colonies that seemed to fail or disappear over the past century? Most of them weren't failures. They were secret shipyards and military bases. We've been hiding our true capabilities because we knew that other species would either become dependent on us or fear us. Admiral Chen continued, neither option would create the kind of alliance we need for what's coming. What exactly is coming? The display changed to show sensor readings from outside the galaxy. Even to Zexkar's untrained eye, the energy signatures were enormous. We call it the silence, Admiral Chen explained. It's not alive in any sense we understand, but it consumes everything it touches. Matter, energy, even information. Entire galaxies have vanished wherever it passes. The Devourers fought it before? The Devourers are what's left of the last galaxy the silence consumed. They escaped into the past, but they're still corrupted by exposure to it. Their plan to absorb our galaxy would give them the strength to fight the silence, but at the cost of everything we are. Dr. Chen leaned forward. Admiral, we need you to convince the Council to rescind Resolution 847. Not because we need their permission to help, but because the defense we're planning requires voluntary cooperation. The Council won't listen to me. I've been declared a deserter for maintaining contact with you. Then we'll have to provide proof they can't ignore, Admiral Chen said. In 72 hours, the Krell will launch their final assault on the core worlds. They've been saving their strength for one massive attack that will cripple the Council permanently. How do you know this? Because we've been watching them prepare. The Devourer influence makes them predictable. Admiral Zexkar, we're going to stop that attack, but we need you to document everything. The Council needs to see exactly what humanity has been preparing for. You're going to engage the entire Krell fleet. We're going to save the core worlds, protect the Council fleet, and demonstrate that humanity never abandoned its responsibilities. We just expanded them beyond what the Council could understand. Admiral Chen's expression became serious. Admiral, what you see in the next few days will be shocking. We've developed technology and tactics that other species don't know about. Some Council members will think we've become something inhuman. I need you to help them understand that we're still the same species that answered the galaxy's call for help 3 centuries ago. What do you need me to do? Document everything. Record the battle. Show the Council that humanity fought to protect them even after being declared criminals. And, Admiral, prepare them for what comes after. After? Dr. Chen answered. After we prove our intentions, we'll need every species in the galaxy to work together. The silence will arrive in 6 months. We have that long to unite a galaxy that has been fighting itself for centuries. The transmission began to fade. Admiral, Sarah Chen called. Remember that everything my people did with the evacuation, the preparation, even accepting the Council's condemnation, was to protect the galaxy. We just needed to do it in a way that would still leave us capable of fighting the real war. As the communication ended, Zexkar stared at the empty screen. Around him, his small crew worked quietly, but he could feel their tension. In 72 hours, they would learn whether humanity had truly been preparing to save the galaxy, or whether 3 centuries of trust had been misplaced. Lieutenant Krall approached with a new report. Sir, long-range sensors are detecting massive movement in the Krell territories. It looks like they're mobilizing everything they have. And our position? We're positioned to observe both the Krell fleet and the Council core worlds. If Admiral Chen is right, we'll have a perfect view of whatever humanity has planned. Zexkar nodded. In 3 days, the galaxy would learn the truth about humanity's disappearance. He hoped the revelation wouldn't come too late to matter. The Council's emergency session was chaos. Emergency lights flashed throughout the Great Chamber as reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Chancellor Vorth stood at the center, his tall frame shaking with rage and desperation. The Krell fleet is 12 hours from the core worlds, announced Admiral Thiss, her voice tight with fear. Our projections show they'll reach the capital system within 18 hours. We have 47 ships to defend against their 3,000. Angry voices erupted around the chamber. Species representatives shouted over each other, some demanding evacuation, others calling for surrender negotiations. The galaxy's greatest civilization was collapsing in panic. Order, Vorth shouted, but his authority was crumbling along with everything else. We will not surrender to pirates and criminals. With what? Demanded the Zilani representative. Half our fleets are destroyed. The other half can't fight this kind of force. We need miracles, not speeches. That's when the first reports came in. Chancellor, called a communication officer, we're receiving urgent transmissions from the outer defense grid. Ships are appearing throughout the system, but they're not Krell. The main display activated, showing space around the capital world. Massive vessels were materializing from what looked like empty space EWDRBU ships, unlike anything in the Council's databases. They were clearly human in origin, but far larger and more advanced than any human ships the Council had ever seen. Sir, the officer continued with obvious confusion, the lead ship is requesting communication. They identify themselves as the Human Deep Space Fleet, commanded by Admiral Sarah Chen. The chamber fell silent. After 6 months of silence, humanity was back. Chancellor Vorth's face cycled through several emotions before settling on cold anger. Patch them through. Let's hear what excuse they have for abandoning us and then returning when it's convenient. The massive display showed Admiral Sarah Chen on the bridge of a ship that looked more like a mobile city than a traditional vessel. Behind her, human officers worked at stations displaying technology that seemed decades ahead of anything the Council possessed. Chancellor Vorth, members of the Galactic Council, Admiral Chen said formally, I am Admiral Sarah Chen of the Human Expeditionary Force. We are here to provide military assistance against the approaching Krell fleet. You have some nerve, Vorth snapped. Humanity abandons its posts, vanishes without explanation, and now returns asking to help? Under Resolution 847, you are all criminals. Admiral Chen's expression didn't change. Chancellor, we are not asking for permission. We are informing you of our actions. In 10 hours, the Krell will attack this system. In 11 hours, that attack will be repelled. I suggest you observe what happens next. Before Vorth could respond, new alarms sounded throughout the chamber. The tactical display showed the Krell fleet emerging from hyperspace at the system's edge, an enormous armada of warships that dwarfed anything the Council could field. 3,000 Krell vessels. Confirmed, Admiral Thiss reported grimly. Admiral Chen, I hope you have more ships than we can see because your force appears to number only about 50 vessels. Admiral Thiss, you're counting correctly. We have 50 ships in this system. 50 ships against 3,000? The disbelief in Theiss's voice was obvious. The numbers are irrelevant, Admiral Chen replied calmly. Lieutenant, begin Phase 1. On the display, the human ships began moving toward the massive Krell fleet. What happened next defied everything the Council understood about space warfare. The human vessels didn't fire conventional weapons. Instead, they seemed to simply appear at different locations, moving faster than physics should allow. When they engaged the Krell ships, entire sections of the enemy fleet simply stopped functioning. "What kind of weapons are those?" whispered the Threx ambassador. Admiral Chen heard the question. "Quantum disruption fields, temporal displacement cannons, and consciousness dampeners. We've been developing them specifically for this type of threat." "Consciousness dampeners?" Admiral Thiss asked. "The Krell have been under Devourer influence for months. The dampeners break that connection, returning them to their natural behavior patterns. Watch." On the display, Krell ships throughout the fleet began changing course. Instead of continuing their attack, many began retreating or even turning on ships that were still under alien influence. Within 2 hours, the massive Krell armada was in complete disarray. Ships fled in all directions, fought each other, or simply drifted powerless. The human fleet hadn't destroyed them, it had freed them from whatever had been controlling their actions. Chancellor Vorth stared at the display in stunned silence. The council chamber was equally quiet as representatives tried to process what they had witnessed. "Admiral Chen," Vorth said slowly, "what exactly has humanity become?" "What we always were, Chancellor. A species that prepares for threats others can't see." Admiral Chen's image was joined by Dr. Sarah Chen, who stepped forward to address the council. "Chancellor, members of the council, 6 months ago, my people detected an approaching threat from outside our galaxy. We tried to warn you indirectly, but our concerns were dismissed, so we developed our own response." "By abandoning your posts?" Vorth demanded. "By evacuating our families and civilians to safety while our military forces prepared for a war unlike anything this galaxy has ever seen," Dr. Chen replied. "Chancellor, the Krell invasion was just a prelude. The real threat arrives in 4 months." New images appeared on the display AudioBook sensor, readings from the galactic rim showing something vast approaching. "Through the void between galaxies, we call it the Silence," Admiral Chen explained. "It has consumed 17 galaxies that we know of. Everywhere it passes, matter, energy, and even information cease to exist. The entities you call Devourers are refugees from the last galaxy it destroyed." "That's impossible," Vorth said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Chancellor," Dr. Chen said gently, "humanity has been fighting a secret war for over a century. Every time we warned about threats like the Void Cult or unusual quantum readings, we were told we were being paranoid. So we stopped asking for permission and started acting on our own." Admiral Thiss spoke carefully. "Admiral Chen, if this threat is real, why didn't you simply tell us the truth?" "Because the truth was that most council species weren't capable of fighting this kind of enemy. Your ships, your weapons, your tactics are all designed for conventional warfare between similar civilizations. The Silence requires completely different approaches. So you decided to handle it yourselves?" Vorth's anger was returning. "We decided to prepare while protecting everyone else from knowledge that would only cause panic," Admiral Chen corrected. "Chancellor, we've spent 6 months building a defense network around the entire galaxy. Ships, weapons, and fortifications that most species can't even detect." The display shifted to show a galactic map, covered with thousands of small markers. Every human colony failure over the past century was actually a hidden military base. Dr. Chen explained. Every research mission that went silent was actually a weapons development project. "We've been preparing for this war since before most of your species achieved spaceflight." Admiral Zexkar's voice suddenly joined the communication from his hidden location. "Council members, I've been observing humanity's actions for the past month. Everything they're telling you is true. Admiral Zexkar." "You are under arrest for treason," Vorth snapped. "Chancellor," Zexkar replied calmly, "I've documented proof that humanity has been protecting the galaxy while we condemn them as criminals. The Centauri rescue, the Krell liberation, even the Devourer entities are all real, all threats that humanity has been fighting while we debated resolutions." Admiral Chen's expression became serious. "Chancellor, we need the Council to rescind Resolution 847. Not because we need your permission to protect the galaxy, but because the defense we've planned requires voluntary cooperation from all species. And if we refuse, then we'll protect you anyway," Admiral Chen said simply. "But our chances of success improve dramatically if we're working together instead of around each other." Chancellor Vorth looked around the chamber at the faces of representatives from hundreds of species. He could see the fear, the confusion, and slowly the understanding that humanity had never abandoned them. "What do you need from us?" he asked quietly. "Trust," Dr. Chen replied. "Trust that when human ships appear in your systems, they're there to protect you. Trust that when we ask you to evacuate certain areas, it's for your safety. And trust that when the real war begins, humanity will fight for every world and every species in this galaxy." Admiral Chen stepped forward. "Chancellor, in 4 months the silence will reach our galaxy. We have that long to unite every species, every world, and every ship in a defense that has never been attempted before. We can't do it alone, and you can't do it without us." The chamber was quiet for a long moment. Then Admiral Thiss spoke. "I move to rescind Resolution 847 and formally request human assistance in defending the galaxy." "Seconded," said Admiral Zexkar from his hidden location. One by one, representatives around the chamber voiced their agreement. When the vote was called, it was unanimous. Chancellor Vorth stood slowly. "Admiral Chen, on behalf of the Galactic Council, I formally rescind Resolution 847.